Welcome to today's session. Today we're talking about my top 10 tips for Excel. And this is brought to you free because it's Learning at Work Week. So it's my way of celebrating this national campaign around promoting learning in the workplace. And it's my way of just sort of giving something back and hopefully whetting your appetite for learning so that I can see you on more of these types of sessions. So before we get stuck in today, the 10 tips, just a wee bit of housekeeping. So at the top right of your screen, it's usually the top right of your screen, you'll see a sort of control panel. So any issues with your sound at all, you should be able to click the button that says audio settings. So if your sound is coming out of the wrong place, if it's coming out of your speakers instead of your earphones or the other way around, you should be able to change that in there. And the other thing we will use today is that chat box. So any questions, any comments, anything at all that you want to share with the others, if you just click on that chat box, and type in your message, I'll be able to see that. So just to let you know, I'm here myself today, so no one's assisting me, so I'm going to do my best to keep my eye on that chat box. So don't worry if I don't answer your question straight away. Please just pop it in, pop your question in, and I'll do my best to answer it when I can. Okay. And another little tip that just might help you is during the actual workshop, you know, as we're going through the workshop, you might benefit from clicking on view options up at the top of your screen and changing it to exit full screen. That just gives you more options and you'll be able to see the chat panel as well as everything else that's going on your screen. Okay, I can see a few more have joined us, so welcome. You've not missed much. We've just been going over some of the housekeeping items just around where the chat box is and how to solve any audio issues. So it's on your screen in front of you there if you have any issues. If you don't have any problems and you can see and hear everything okay, then just let me know by typing a yes into that chat box. That'll let me know that you can see and hear me, but it'll also let me know that you've found that chat box as well. So just let me know, just type a yes in there if everything's okay at your side. Great, Jacqueline. Thanks, Alice. Okay, I'm assuming everyone else can as well. They've just perhaps not found that chat box yet. That's okay. But as we go through, this is meant to be interactive. So any questions, comments, any other tips that you want to share with everyone, please just type it in that chat box. That's how you can communicate with me as we go along today. Okay, so let's get started because actually 10 is quite a lot to fit in to one session. So as I said, ask questions at any time. You can practice either as we go along if you like, if you feel comfortable sort of minimising your web browser, minimising this Zoom session and having a go yourself in Excel, you can do that. You should still be able to hear me, even though you can't see anything. And like I said, right at the start, after this session, I will send you a link to the recording as well as a handout that you can download, which will have all of these tips on it. So you don't need to worry too much about taking notes as we go through, because I'll send you that straight after this webinar. Okay, so here we go. Here are my top 10 tips when using Excel. So just scanning down that list, is there anything there that catches your eye, anything there that you're really looking forward to learning a wee bit about today? If there is, just type it into that questions box, that chat box rather, and I will do my best to, well, I'm going to cover all of these, but I'll make sure that I spend a wee bit longer on those ones. So any favourites in there, anything that you are really curious to learn about, out of that list of 10, just type it in that chat box and let me know. Okay, great. So Jacqueline, you're interested in the separating data. That's always a really useful one. And Alice looking at formatting tables. Yep, okay. So yeah, anything that makes your spreadsheet look really good and professional without you spending hours and hours on it. That's always a winner, isn't it? Sequences, yep. Okay, so excellent. I'm glad that there's a few things in there that are sort of piquing your interest. So I'm going to switch to Excel now to show you each of these different tips in turn. So to do that, I'm going to actually switch off my video. But yeah, now you all can see me and you know who you're talking to. So I'm going to switch my video off and start sharing my desktop. Now I'm using a Windows version of Excel on a Mac, just to confuse matters, and I'm using the latest version of Excel. So most of in fact, everything that I'm going to cover today will definitely be available from Excel 2010 onwards, possibly even earlier for some of them. So no matter what version of Excel you're using, you should be able to get quite a lot out of this session. Okay, so I'm going to just stop my video and I am just going to share a different screen with you. So hopefully you can see my Excel screen. So I've opened up just a sort of pretty standard sample spreadsheet that we're going to just use just as a sort of example as we go through these top 10 tips. But of course, the first tip is around templates. So templates are really, really useful if you have to start a spreadsheet from scratch and you're just not sure what you want it to look like. Sometimes I think that, you know, that those days when you're faced with a blank sheet that looks like this, and a whole load of information that you want to get across, it can feel quite overwhelming, can't it? So one of my top tips, and these are in no particular order, but one of my top tips is definitely to have a look at the templates that are already built into Excel. So to do that, you just go to File and then New, and most of you will just double click on this first one without even thinking. Does anyone use any of these other templates that are available? Let me know in that chat box if you've ever sort of used any of these templates. Let me know in that chat box while I just scan through and give you an example of some of the different spreadsheets that are available. So there are loads of templates available. You see they're all nice and colourful. So let's have a look at just a profit and loss projection. So I've opened it up. It looks pretty complicated. It tells you exactly what you need to do. And it's got all of these different boxes here. So you would just fill it in. And you can, of course, make any changes you like. So you can change the colours and things to suit yourself. But you've got all of these different sheets here. And it explains what the sheet does, as well as actually, you know, doing all it. It has all the formulas built in for you. It's all pretty and nicely formatted. So it's a really easy way for you just to make a start at your own spreadsheet. Okay, and if it's not quite the way you like, if it's not the way you would like it, then you can make your changes, yourself. So, okay, anyone else having issues with sound? Let me know if you can hear me. Just type a quick yes into that chat box if you can still hear me. Okay, so sorry, Jacqueline, that the sound just cut off for you. It seems to be okay with other people. Perhaps click on that audio settings and just double check that it just cut off. Okay, hopefully it will come back. Sorry about that, Jacqueline. Just everyone else bear with me. It's really difficult to type and talk at the same time. So I know that some people can hear me and I know that some people can't. So any issues there, just hopefully if you click on that audio settings button, you should be able to change where your sound is coming out, and hopefully you'll be able to hear me properly. Also, hopefully the recording's working as well, so you can always refer back to that if need be. Okay, Alice, you're on Excel 2007. So there are templates built in, they just might not be immediately available. So what you might have is, if you go to File and then New, you might just have a couple of these showing, but you should have a search box here, and if you type into that search box the kind of thing that you're looking for, then you will find that there are templates available. It just looks a bit different. So have a look at that. The other thing just to bear in mind here is with templates, you do need an internet connection, because what you're doing is you're just downloading a spreadsheet from Microsoft servers. So you do need an internet connection to access these templates. Okay, so that's templates. My tip there is really just to browse the templates and have a go at using them. Okay, moving on quickly. My second tip is around changing the background to make it look a bit more professional. So if I wanted, for example, just to put a picture behind all of this spreadsheet, I can go up to the page layout tab, and there's a button there called background. And you've got the choice either to upload a picture that you've already saved onto your computer, or search the internet for another image to use. I've got one already saved, so I'm just going to insert that, and you'll see that it stretches it so that it's nice and big, and then it sort of repeats the same picture over and over again. So when you print this spreadsheet out, this is in the background. And of course I can type over these this picture as well, and it won't interfere with it. So that's quite a useful thing if you want to just pop your logo or any other sort of picture into the background of your spreadsheet. I'm going to just click undo here, because the next thing that I want to show you is around formatting tables. So it's going to make everything look much more complicated if I've got a picture as well as a table. So Alice, I think this was something that you were keen on, and this is just a couple of clicks, and you can have something formatted to look a bit like a table that you might use in Word. So all I'm going to do is just click on a table, and I just want this expenses table formatted nicely. Just going to click anywhere in the table, and on that home tab, I'm going to click this magic button that says Format as Table. And then I've got all these different styles to choose from. I could select a new table style if I wanted to create my own, but I'm going to go with this one. Then Excel is just suggesting the table that I want to actually format, and I'm going to say OK to that. So as you can see, it's formatted my table. It's recognised some headers there and coloured them in nicely, and it's also added some filters as well that I can use. So all of that just from that one button up here on your home tab called Format as Table. Who thinks they might use that? Alice, was that what you were expecting to see? Let me know in the chat box if you think you might make use of that. But tables, really quick and easy, one couple of clicks, and you've got a really smart looking table formatted for you. Okay, next up is a trick that not many people know about, and it's actually on all of the Microsoft Office programs. So if you're scheduled in, to join any of the other workshops this week, then I'll probably mention this one as well, and that's the Format Painter. So if, for example, I really like the format of this header row here, and I want this top line up here, this income line, to be the same, I could take a note of all the different formatting options of this line and then replicate it here, or I could simply highlight the formatting that I really like, click on this Format Painter button, which is always on the Home tab, and then just click where I want the formatting to go. Now that hasn't worked because, of course, this is a table and it's not a format as such. So let me just show you another example then. So let's say I format this cell here, income, and I want to format it with a dark purple background, bold text, and I want white. I'm going to increase the size as well. And if I want that all the way across to December, I can click on the cell, again, just click on that Format Painter and then highlight the cells that I want the new formatting applied to, and there we have it. Okay, so that Format Painter is a really quick and easy way for you to just copy formats across. Okay, Alice, that wasn't what you were looking for table-wise. If you let me know in the chat box, if we've got time at the end, then I will show you, you know, I will answer any questions that you do have. So if there was something specific you were hoping to find out, then please type it in. That goes for anyone. If there's something specific you're looking for, type it into that chat box and I'll do my best to answer it if time allows. Okay, we're on to tip number 5 now, sequences. So as you can see here up at the top, we have each of the months, January to December. So if I wanted to repeat that for next year, if I wanted to repeat that for next year, I could type in January, February, March, and so on. Or I could actually just take 2 or 3 of the cells beforehand, and I move my mouse down to this bottom right-hand corner of the sequence until it changes to a plus sign. And then I click and hold my mouse down and then drag it across. And it knows the sequence, so it knows what comes next. So that sequence, that what we call autofill, works with numbers, days of the week, months, and sequences. So just to give you another example, if I put a 1 then a 2 in, and I take both of these, and then I move my mouse down to the bottom right-hand corner until it becomes this plus sign, press and hold my mouse down while I drag, and then let go. It autofills all the different numbers there. So that's what I mean by sequences. It's a really easy, quick way for you to just enter in a sequence. Okay, I'm just about to move on to tip number 6. Before I do, Alice has asked a question around cells and formulas. Okay, so we're going to come on to formulas shortly. I'm not sure what you mean by cells. I'm assuming you just mean about formatting. So again, all your formatting tools are up here. Please correct me in that chat box if I'm wrong, if you're looking for something else. All your formatting tools are up here. And this border one here is where you would get your, you know, your frame around the different cells. So let's just stick with what we have. And again, you would just colour in the background to the different cells that you want, and change usually the font to a sort of bold colour, and use your borders here just to outline the different cells that you are looking for. And when it comes to formulas, let's just hold that thought just now until we get to tip number 6. Okay, so coming up right now, actually. Okay, so some of the spreadsheets that you use have formulas in it and they sometimes disappear. Okay, so they will generally not disappear by themselves. I hate to say it, but they usually disappear because someone hits delete. And that's usually the case because someone is using Excel who's not very confident in it at all and has accidentally either deleted something or typed over it. The only way to get around that is to encourage people. So let me just get rid of all of this. Or move it down. Is to encourage people to check first before they hit delete. So let me show you tip number 6 first, and then I'll point out, something that you can ask your colleagues to do to make sure that formulas don't disappear. So tip number 6 is adding a range. So that means adding up a range of numbers. And there's a really quick and easy way to do that. So say I wanted to just add up the total for each of the different months here, January to December. I wanted a total in here. I always click where I want the answer to go. And then on the Home tab, up in the top right-hand side, there's a button that looks a bit like this. So it might not say the word auto sum beside it. It might just looks a bit like an E symbol. I'd press that and Excel has read my mind and is suggesting that I want to add up these numbers. So all I need to do is hit enter on my keyboard. And that has added up each of these numbers here. So one button does that, which is great, isn't it? So just to show you again, click where you want the answer to go, and on that Home tab, on the right-hand side, just click on the button that looks a bit like an E. Check that it's highlighting all the cells that you want. If it's not highlighting the cells that you want, then just take your mouse and highlight the cells that you do want it to add up, and then just hit enter. Okay, and Alice, just to make sure that people don't delete or overtype that formula there, just encourage people to, before they start typing anything in Excel, just to have a glance in this formula bar up at the top here. And if it starts with an equals sign, then they shouldn't touch anything. They should click away from that cell. That's how formulas get deleted, is because people click here and type something else. So they might work out this in a calculator and disagree with your total and go ahead and start typing in another number, and all of a sudden that sum has disappeared. Okay, that's usually the simplest way that people overtype formulas. Other ways will include just deleting rows or sorting the data in the wrong way, and that means that your totals go, typical Microsoft decides to do an update while I'm in the middle of this. Let's hope it doesn't restart itself. So there are various ways that people unfortunately overwrite or delete formulas. You can protect them, but that causes other problems. So the easiest way is just to encourage people to have a look in that formula bar, and if it starts with an equal sign, to click away and don't touch it. Okay, but tip number 6, adding a range, click where you want the answer to go and press that magic auto sum button. If it chooses the wrong area to add up, just move your mouse and highlight the cells you do want it to add and hit enter, and that's you've got your range added. Okay, my next tip number 7, is called Paste Special. Let me know in the chat box, does anyone actually use Paste Special? So instead of just copy and paste, does anyone go to Paste Special instead? Let me know in the chat box if this is something that you are familiar with. No, new to everyone? Or maybe there's a slight delay with the chat box, not sure. It could be new to everyone. unless you've used it but you don't know why. Okay, hopefully this will help you understand when you might use paste special. So normally when we copy, and so Hazel, it's new to you, okay. So normally when we copy and paste, Excel will copy everything and paste everything. So by that I mean, if I scroll up to the top, if I was to copy these two cells here, income and Jan, if I do just a right click copy and then go down here and just hit paste, it copies and pastes both the values that are in the cells, so the actual text, as well as the formatting. Okay, if there was any formulas or anything else in either of those cells, it would paste everything into the new cells. Sometimes you don't want to do that. Sometimes you just want to copy and paste the actual text. So if I undo that and copy these two cells here, and if I just want to paste in the text, I don't want to paste in the purple, formatting or anything, I can click on the arrow underneath paste and choose one of these options. And the option I'm going to go for is paste values, which is this one here, paste 1, 2, 3, paste values. And that just takes the contents of that cell, the text or the numbers within that cell, and it pastes them in there. So it doesn't bring down any formatting or any formulas or anything like that. Okay, so I'm going to just delete that and show you another example. So again, these totals here, so as you can see, if I click into this one, you can see that there is a formula here because it begins with the equals sign. But if I just wanted this number pasted somewhere else, so say I just have just some text at the bottom that says January's total, and I just want that number in there. If I copy and then just paste, it tries to do it copies the formula and it tries to do a sum, which doesn't make any sense because there aren't any numbers above it. So instead of doing that, what I want to do is copy as normal, just copy that, and then when I get to here, instead of pasting, I click on the arrow and I'm going to this paste values again, which is the 1, 2, 3. And that will just paste in the number, there's no formula. Okay, there are lots of other options here that you can see. So this is a straightforward paste. You could paste the formulas, so that would paste any formulas in without pasting in any formatting or anything else. That would paste in the formula and the format of the number, so without pasting in the colour of it or the font size or anything like that, and so on. So you can see what it does by hovering over each of the different icons. And you'll see that when I do that, when I hover over each of the different icons, not only does it tell me what it's going to do in the little tooltip that pops up, but it also gives me a preview right here in my spreadsheet. It gives me a preview of what it's going to actually do in my spreadsheet. Okay. The other option, of course, is to click that paste special button. So if you don't have all of these, if you're using an older version of Excel, you might not have all of these icons, but you can click that paste special button and select from here. Sometimes that's easier because it's really obvious what it is it's going to do. So you could choose values from there or any of these other options. So you could just copy the formats across or the formulas as you need to. Okay, a really useful copy and paste tip is when, for example, if I had to add VAT onto these. So I could do a formula or so if I wanted to add 20% to these items, I could, you know, come up with a formula to do that, or I could copy and paste. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a 1.2 here. So if I wanted to add on 20%, what I would do is multiply it by 1.2. So I'm going to copy. And then I'm going to click Paste Special, and I'm going to tick Multiply. And what it's going to do is it's going to paste over these figures with multiplying it by 1.2. So that's another top tip there. Jacqueline, I'm so sorry that you're having issues with the sound. Yes, I will send you a recording, hopefully later on today, once it's sort of converted itself. And I'm so sorry that it didn't work out for you. I'm not entirely sure why, because everything looks okay my end, but just sometimes that's the way, isn't it, with technology? So I'm sorry about that. Okay, so everyone that's still with us, I'm going to move on then. So Paste Special is a really useful tool if you don't want to take everything from a cell and paste everything, if you just want to take certain parts of it. So the next tip is separating data. So we're on to tip number 8, which is around separating data. And Jacqueline, who I think has actually just, no, she's still with us just now. Jacqueline, this one was for you specifically. Hopefully you can hear this bit. So separating data, what I mean is, I'm going to have a look at this example here. So in this spreadsheet, we've got a list of products. And if we sort of scan down the list, you can see that most of the products are an item with a comma and then a description of that particular item. So if we were some kind of stationery supplier, we've got all of these items here and we sell them in different colours or in different styles. And let's say you supplied this spreadsheet to a manager who said, no, I'm afraid I need the item in one column and the description in another. You might need to, you'd probably want to insert a column here and label it up description. And then you could start going through and typing in red and then deleting that from this cell here. That would take some time and wouldn't be a very good use of your time, really, would it? So what we're going to do instead is, I'm just going to take this out to avoid confusion, is we're going to use a tip here that's called text to columns. So what I'm going to do is, I've made sure there's definitely a blank column to the right of the column that I'm about to separate. I'm going to highlight the column that I want to separate out, and I'm going to go up to this data tab. Okay, and from this data tab, I'm going to click this button here, text to columns. Okay, now it gives me two different choices. Delimited would be where the separation occurs when there's a specific sort of punctuation or perhaps even just a space. Or the other option is fixed width. So to give you an example, if I chose fixed width and click next, it allows me to put in, insert my own line just by clicking. And that starts to look okay, but when I scroll down, it's not going to work because my C from clear is going to be in one cell and the leer part is going to be in the other, so the line's not going to be in the right place. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to choose delimited, because for all of the items there's a comma and actually a space as well between the actual item and the description. So I'm going to choose delimited and click next, and I'm going to tick the box that says comma, because there is a comma separating both of them. So we can see when I scroll down that that's going to work fine. So I just click next again and then finish. And again, as if by magic, a couple of clicks later, and I've got all my items in one column and the descriptions in another. Okay, so that's on the Data tab, and it's this button here, Text to Columns. Okay, and again, I can just put in my heading there. Okay, so can anyone think of any other times when you might use that text to columns function? Do you have a spreadsheet in mind that might benefit from that? So lots of people that I work with have spreadsheets where they've got names of people in a column, and they always want to separate it from first name in one column and surname in another column. That's sometimes easier said than done. Has anyone got a spreadsheet in mind that they might want to use text to columns with? Let me know in the chat box. But I do think that that's a really useful tip, that text to columns. And as I said at the start, all of these tips are clearly outlined in the handout that you're going to get along with the recording after this session. Okay, moving on then to, and we're making great progress now, we're moving on now to tip number 9, which is around viewing the headings. So, viewing headings, I mean, in this particular spreadsheet, we've got some headings up at the top, but when I start to scroll down, the headings at the top, of course, disappear. So when we start to type in a new item here, I would need to keep scrolling up to the top to remind myself what each of these different columns were. So in order to stop doing that, I can freeze this heading row so that when I scroll, this heading row is frozen in place, and it means that I can always view the headings. So to do that, I'm going to go up to the View tab, and there's a button here, Freeze Panes. Now when I click on it, I've got 3 different options. The middle option is to freeze the top row, which is probably what I'm going to use in this example, and that will just keep the top row in place even when I start scrolling down, so that I can always see that top row. The last option there is to freeze the first column, so that works the same way. So in this case, it would freeze the column A, which is my code, and no matter how far right I scrolled, I would still be able to see that code, sort of frozen in place. The one, the very top one, will actually keep everything above and to the left of the cell that I have clicked. So if, for example, I wanted to freeze the top row and the left row, the left column, I can click here and go to Freeze Panes and click this top one here, and that will freeze the top row and the leftmost row. And when I scroll, it keeps them all in place. So really useful for bigger spreadsheets. Okay, and again, that's on that View tab there. So View and then Freeze Panes. Okay, and now we come to the last tip, which is around printing. So time to own up, time to confess. Let me know in the chat box who's had a disaster when it comes to printing a spreadsheet. It can't just be me that's ended up printing reams of paper and trying to attach them all with sellotape. Anyone else had an issue like that? Let me know in the chat box, or maybe you just don't want to own up to it. Oh, Hazel, well done. You've had that same issue. And I know that it's a common issue from training that I do in workplaces. People always say that printing spreadsheets is a nightmare. And it's only a nightmare because they don't necessarily know how to tell Excel exactly what you want to print. So again, in your handout that I'll email you shortly after the webinar, it tells you step by step how to do that. And the steps are pretty straightforward, so I just want to highlight the cells that I want to print. So I only want to print this area here that I've highlighted. So highlight the area to be printed, and then on that page layout tab, you're going to print area and clicking set print area. So it will only print this part out. It won't print all these blank cells. So you won't end up with reams and reams of blank paper. So the next thing you want to do is just double check that it's actually going to print it on a sensible number of pages. So to do this, I'm going to click on this wee magic button here in the corner. So again, on that page layout tab, this page setup group, there's this little button here that allows you to go straight into this more button around page setup. So I want it on landscape. I want it to be printed out that way, and I only want it on one page, so I can click on this button here, fit to 1 page wide by 1 page tall. And then I can work my way through and make the margins a wee bit smaller to get more on a page. And I probably want to centre it on the page as well. On the next one, I can type in a heading if I want, or a footer. So let's say over in the bottom right, I want the date, and I can click on this little calendar button. It'll always put today's date in it. And lastly, if I click on this sheet button, this magic button here, grid lines, will allow me to print the spreadsheet with the lines in, so you won't need to print it out and then go grab your ruler. You'll be able to see the lines. Okay, and then there's a print preview button here that I can press just to see that it fits nicely onto one page. I can see my footer, I can see the lines, so I know it's all good before I even hit that print button. Okay, so that's all in this tiny, tiny button here under page setup. If you're using a really old version of Excel, then you will have an option, an actual menu option that says page setup, and it will take you to the exact same screen. Okay, so that was the last of my top 10 tips. So I'm just going to switch back to my slides. And I'll put on my video as well so that you can see me again. So let me know in the chat box which of those top 10 tips that you're going to go away and practice first. So we went through all of these 10 tips and I know that it was really quick and I know that it's quite a lot to take in, but hopefully once you've got your printed notes as well, it'll all come flooding back to you when you actually go and put it into practice. So let me know in that chat box, which of these are you going to go and practice first? So Hazel, I'm guessing one of yours will be to go away and practice printing. Let me know in the chat box what you think you're going to go and practice first. So Alice says viewing the headings, yep, and printing as well. So yeah, have a go at that. I'm sure that you've got a spreadsheet in mind, Alice, that you can put those two things into practice. And Hazel, yeah, definitely going to practice the printing. Couldn't get the grid lines, yep. So just have another look at that, go into that page setup view and tick that box that says grid lines, and hopefully you'll be able to print out, you will be able to print out your spreadsheet with the lines. That's on really old versions of Excel as well as the new ones, so I'm sure you'll have that function. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining. I hope you enjoyed that webinar, free as part of Learning at Work Week. We've got lots of other topics lined up this week as well that you can join in and learn some new tips about how to use the different Microsoft Office packages. So yeah, after this, after we log off of this, I will send you a link to view the recording. I'll send you a handout that describes each of the different tips that we've covered today. I'll also just send you just a note with my email address so that you can contact me if you do want to speak about training at your workplace, where we're both actually physically in the same room to do some training that way if you would prefer. And remember that you can feel free to connect with me on social media, or in fact email me if you've got any issues around any of the different tips that we've covered today, and I'll do my best to help you. Okay, so I'm going to log off, which should kick everyone else out. If not, then you should have a end webinar or leave webinar kind of button on your screen. And as I said, stay tuned over the next, at some point today, I will send you the handout and the recording as well. So thanks very much and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you. Bye.